one, I went to talk to my guidance counselor because I was curious. It was people applying to colleges around me, and I was like, you know what? Let me talk to my guidance counselor. And when I tell you, I got the worst piece of guidance that I had ever gotten. He said, I came from a lower middle class family, and he was like, you should just get a job at like McDonald's and help your family. Which I worked at McDonald's. Right. Nothing wrong with McDonald's. Great place to start. I learned a lot of things there, but it was just that the fact that even though I was in Honor Society, even though I was in Beta Club, even though I was doing all these things in the student body, all those things, he still didn't value that or want to encourage me. And that pissed me off. Yeah. Like, I remember leaving there. I cried. I did for 2 minutes because I had to really adjust. But after that, I was like, you know what? I am going to go to college and I am going to do this. And I was I remember I was so set on it.
Yo, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Armand Lindsay back again with another episode of Big Boss Talk, the podcast. Listen, I got another extreme top tier guest. Everybody that comes on this podcast is always going to be a top tier guest, but this one is a little different because he got a little bit of ties in Rock Hill, South Carolina with the Winthrop. Go Eagles. I'm gonna get into how he even chose to go to Winthrop, because obviously born and raised in Rock Hill is just like we never consider going to Winthrop, and I've heard Winthrop is just such a great school. But let me get into who I got for you guys. Okay, I got Trell Thomas, age 37, career/job. He's the CEO of Black Excellence BRUNCH. College degree, went to Winthrop University. Graduated with his degree in communications. Years in his profession is 5 years. Man, Trell, say what's up to the podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you for having me. Big Boss Talk. I think this is the first time that I've ever been on anything where I've been referred to as a big boss, but I like it.
Yeah, man. Everybody's a boss. I like to just look at the word boss as like a mantra. Just everybody getting up, going to work, providing for their family, providing for themselves. It's just a mindset to carry yourself as, you're a boss of your own path. You're in control of your own fate. So that's kind of the mantra that we try to live by, and that's why we called it Big Boss Talk, because what we're talking about is going to be helpful for all people, especially for the kids. But before we get started, we always do 2 truths and a lie. So Trell, I hope you got some good statements for me. I'm trying to guess this lie, so let me hear what you got.
Okay. I lived in 7 states.
Okay.
I am my favorite food is French fries. And I went bowling in the White House.
Wow, that's tough. Okay, so lived in 7 states. Your favorite food is French fries, and you went bowling in the White House. Now, I don't think you would, bowling in the White House is pretty dope, and I don't think you could just make that lie out of nowhere. So I definitely think that's true. I mean, you do a lot of great things. Obviously, I saw you was just out the country, and just how a dope of experience it was. I think you were in Abu Dhabi, but it was a great experience. So I won't put it past you. Like, you do great things, and so bowling in the White House is super dope. French fries and living in the 7 different states is what I'm tripped up on. A lot of people always say, they lived in a certain amount of states, but they always try to get me with the number. So I don't think it's technically 7. I think you probably traveled a lot. I talked to Melissa, and she told me a little bit about you guys' history and a little bit of you guys' friendship. So I'm going to say, I think you do like French fries. I'm going to say the lie is 7 states. I just don't think the number is accurate.
Yeah, man, you're right. You're pretty good at this. Yeah. It was tough for me to do that. Yeah.
Cool, man. That's what's up. So how many states have you lived in?
Actually, 8.
8. Wow.
Yeah.
What's been your favorite so far?
My favorite, I would have to say, it's hard. Like, LA, California for sure. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I love California. I love like so many things about it. And I feel like just my mindset here is very different. So I think I'm like more whole of a person,
Yeah,
if that makes any sense, which is why I really like LA. And plus, you know, the weather, you can't beat it
can't beat it.
and all those things. But I think if I had to choose like one place that I truly miss, sometimes I lived in Oregon. So Portland,
Okay.
Oregon, I lived in for a little while. Wow. And I actually think about like, oh, I should go visit sometimes, which rarely happens outside of, you know, South Carolina where I'm from. And that's mostly because of my family, you know.
Got you. Okay. And then you said you went bowling in the White House. How did that happen like that? You mean we can't let that slide because that's super
Well,
dope.
I've gone bowling at the White House several times, and that's not to like gas or anything, but it's mostly. So I worked on the inauguration. I worked on the Obama campaign in 2008
Yep.
and the inauguration in 2012,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just I was in and around the White House a lot. You know,
Okay.
I had a lot of friends that worked there. I worked on some things. And so I would get invited, you
That's
know,
dope.
and yeah, it's one of the top memorable experiences that I had, at least while in DC.
That's dope. That's dope. Well, fun fact is, I actually was a part of, went to the inauguration. So for Obama's inauguration, I was in the crowd. You know, if you look at the picture, you can't see me, but I know exactly where I was
You
at.
there, you there,
Yeah, I
you know
was
what I'm saying?
there. My grandmother, she put a trip together for some people in Rock Hill, and we kind of went, and it was history in the making. I will say it was the worst experience I've ever had, just because I
Okay.
don't think at that time
It was
DC was
cold.
ready. It was cold, super cold, and I don't think DC was ready for that amount of people.
Mhm.
And you know, people were passing out on the train system, the subways, and like we're cramped in like sardines. And so I'm young at the time, but it was just me and my cousin were just like, we'll never probably go to another inauguration again. But I was happy that we went because we were a part of history, and we
Right.
could say that. So that's super cool. Well, we're gonna move on, man. I just got a 2 to 3 quick questions for you, just to kind of get to know you, right? So, what's a hobby that people don't know that you do, man? Like, what's something that people just don't know that you do, that you like to do in your spare time?
Yeah, people don't know that I'm really low key a stylist. Like
Okay.
I think fashion and styling gives me the opportunity to be creative outside of like work.
Yeah.
You know, it allows me to like use my creativity and I say stylist because not only do I do it for myself, but I do it for like my family members, my friends, like hardcore. They'll call me and be like, Trell, I'm going to this place. What should I wear? And I like and I love it. I like
Yeah.
doing it. You know? So I don't think a lot of people know that about me.
That's cool, man. I did. I mean, I peeped the style, the swag is crazy on your Instagram. Like, I mean, I was like, man, this dude is like always sharp to the T, like to the nine. So I'm pretty sure it's always cool to get that call and be like, listen, this what's going on. Should I match with this, with this? Like, what's the
Yeah.
look? You know? So it's always fun to get those conversations. But that's pretty cool. What's some of the best advice you've ever gotten?
Um, I think you so a couple of things. One that's really sticking out in my mind right now is like everything that settles is at the bottom.
Mm,
And it someone told me that because I was holding on to something that I thought that I was literally afraid of letting go
yeah.
of. And they started to ask me like a bunch of questions, and as I was answering these questions, they were, I started to realize that this is not like up to the standard that I want or
Yeah.
or the place that I'm at in my life. And by settling, by like accepting it, I'm settling, and everything that settles like is at the bottom, you know. And I was
Yeah.
like, wait,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? So that was a really powerful, and that just sticks out in my mind right now because you know, even as I like navigate through life, I have to remind myself like or ask myself, is this, you know, is this up to my standard or
Right.
am I accepting less than I deserve? And then I think the other piece of advice that I feel like was really helpful for me is I used to kind of feel like, oh, why did I do that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Or what purpose did that serve? And a mentor of mine told me that like as you go through life, every experience you have, you need.
Mm.
And as you go through life, you're constantly putting things in your toolbox,
Yeah.
right? And then you get to a place in life and you like can go back into that box and use those tools for the thing. And I realized that everything that I've done up until even this point in my life, and I've done a lot of different things, right?
Yeah.
Has prepared me for the space that I'm in now. And even the space that I'm in now and the things that I'm doing now is preparing me for what I will do, you
Yeah.
know? And I just thought that that was a really cool piece of advice.
Man, that's dope. I love that. I mean, the first piece of advice when you said everything that settles sinks to the bottom, like that kind of sticks with me and relates to like sometimes friendships, right? Like relationships. You know, sometimes you outgrow certain situations, and you want to hold on to those relationships because it's like that's those are my people. Like day
Mm-hmm.
one, we got a lot of chemistry together, but sometimes your standards aren't the same. You know what I mean? And that can kind of hinder you from growing further. And I'm pretty sure you have so much experience in that, just as far as like your journey and things of that nature. But I also, um, know you've done a lot of different things as far as like moving. I think I was talking to Melissa, and she was telling me how you were the one that was like, "Hey, let's move to, New York. Like, let's
Yeah.
go." How, what? I guess what kind of made you. Was it you that told her to come, or were you like, "Let's go together"? Like, how did that even start? Like, happen?
I've always I dream a big dream for myself, and I also dream a big dream for other people. Like I feel like I can see people's potential. I
Yeah.
can see what like all of the greatness that they have inside of them, and me and Melissa built that bond. A long time ago, like when we were kids,
Yeah.
basically. And I've always when I love and I care about somebody, I'm always going to want the best for them and to push for the best for them. And I always wanted to live in New York.
Yeah.
Like that's been me from a kid. So, but as I grew with Melissa and as I learned things about her, I was just like, Melissa should move to New York. And although, like, and I was just thinking, like, oh, we should both move. But I remember, like, really pushing her and being like, Melissa, come to New York, come to New York, come to New York. And but I don't, it wasn't necessarily so I could have a friend there or so, because I didn't want to do it alone. It was because I felt like she was big enough,
Yeah.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
to be there and to have that experience because you gotta be a special kind of person
Special.
to live in New York. And I say that with as much humility and like grace as I can because I know that it is with that saying that if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. That is true.
Mm.
Like I can tell you from experience. And I just felt like she had it,
Yeah.
and I wanted to see her thrive. And yeah, that's why.
Well, I'll tell you, man, she's super grateful. She talked about you, and she was just like, man, if that one decision, like, it was a lot of things that she's done, but just that decision to pick up and move in a time of her life where she was still trying to figure things out and stuff like that. She said that move to New York really helped her and propel her. So I mean, obviously, you got a gift of seeing things and seeing just wanting the best for people. It's not you seeing something, it's just like coming from South Carolina, like South Carolina is a lot of potential, but it's so small. You have to sometimes leave to really expand upon your potential. And it's crazy to me because there's so many people that have done things for the culture, so famous people that are from South Carolina that
Yeah.
moved. And it was like I just figured out that Coco from the Fresh Prince of the Bel Air new series, the young lady, she's
Yeah.
from Columbia, South Carolina,
Yeah.
and she left and went to LA. So it's just like hearing stories like that all the time. It's just it shows that obviously you got to have people that push you, want the best for you, believe in you, just like you saw for yourself. And just it's okay to know where you're from, but you got to understand that you can be bigger than just that particular city or state, and you got to kind of expound upon that, and put yourself in the right place. So I thank you for answering a little bit of those questions just to kind of get to know you a little bit. But I do want to start because it's very much educational. I want to give something back to the kids, the people that listen. But how did you choose Winthrop University out of all schools? Just how did Winthrop come on the radar?
That's so funny, and I have not told this story too many times, but man, it was really I mean, I say it was coincidental, but I know you and I know that nothing is by coincidence,
Mm-hmm.
everything is by design. But my I was kind of dragging my feet. I was always really smart in high school, in
Yep.
honor society, beta club, like all the things, right? But I just was like I didn't know anybody in my immediate family that had gone to college or had a higher education. So it was kind of like, oh yeah, I know that thing exists, but I didn't know that it was for me. And there were two things that happened that really propelled me into doing that. One, I went to talk to my guidance counselor because I was curious. It was people applying to colleges
Yeah.
around me, and I was like, you know what? Let me talk to my guidance counselor. And when I tell you, I got the worst piece of guidance that I had ever gotten. He said, I came from a lower middle class family, and he was like, you should just get a job at like McDonald's and help your family.
Oh
Which
my.
I worked at McDonald's,
Right.
nothing wrong with McDonald's. Great place to start. Learned a lot of things there, but it was just that the fact that even though I was in on society, even though I was in Beta Club, even though I was doing all these things on student in the student body, all those things, he still didn't value that or want to encourage me. And that pissed me off.
Yeah.
Like I remember leaving there. I cried. I did for like, 2 minutes because I had to like really adjust. But like after that, I was like, you know what? I am going to go to college and I am going to do this. And I was
Yeah.
I remember I was so set on it. And then so that's the thing that really propelled me. But another thing that kind of probably even led me to that moment that sometimes I forget about is my dad was like, okay, he was asking me, like, what do you plan to do? Like, my dad never pushed,
Yeah.
right? He always was like, it would be a question.
Right.
And I was like, oh, I don't know. He was like, well, I tell you what, either you're going to figure it out, you're going to go to college, you're going to do something, or you're going to the army. And I was just like, I ain't going to
Wow.
nobody. I ain't getting up at
What an
and that was when I
ultimatum.
like to keep it to like 11 a.m. So that really pushed me too. But I would say that it was honestly that misguidance, I would say, from my
Yeah.
guidance counselor that really made me say like, nah, I'm gonna show him, I'm gonna show everybody, and I'm gonna be an example to people too, because I didn't want anybody else to have that experience.
Yeah, like that's terrible. Like you said, most terrible. And some people could take that. Like, lucky for you, you turned that. It kind of turned into anger, but then it was a spark of like, no, I am going to do this and prove somebody
Right,
wrong. Because some people they'll take that and be like, well, maybe you're right. Like maybe I should just
right,
maybe I should just
right.
go to get a job. So I've talked to guidance counselors on here before, and their whole concern is like there's some good ones and there's some bad ones. Some people are in their purpose, and some people are just trying to get a check. And there's two
Hmm.
different, ways that you can look at that, and that's totally true. So cool. So after we graduated from, we went to Winthrop, we graduated. What was your first actual, big boy job that you would say, and how did you come about that job?
I My first big boy job was at NBC. NBC is headquartered in Charlotte, North Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
and I interned at NBC. I remember, you had when I was in college, you had to have an internship in order to graduate, and I
Yeah.
had interned with the Carolina Panthers radio, and it was cool. But it wasn't until I interned at NBC that I was like, ooh, and I really, because my major was broadcast journalism, and I really got to see a lot and also connect with people that I felt cared about me too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? There were people that worked there that really poured into me. And when I tell you, this was also back when interning, you didn't get paid to
Mm-mm.
intern. And in that day, you were told like, stay there until they offer you a job. That was like the thing. Like, don't leave, even when your internship is over. And I remember my internship was over, and I just kept going back. I kept
Wow.
showing up, and I mean, Melissa knows this too. Like, I was selling my shoes, my clothes back. I was not eating some days, put gas in my car so I could keep going to that internship. And finally, they offered me the job,
Oh my God.
and that was my first like big time job. Like, I had to dress nice. I had the little
Yeah.
badge. I had to scan to get in. I I remember the feeling of that, and I remember really feeling accomplished and really just grateful. I wrote scripts for the Today Show. I did like some really cool things before the age of 21.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. I will say that like after all of that, I probably interned for a year. I
Mm-hmm.
got the job, and like a week and a half later, I got the offer to work on the Obama campaign. So I was like in this really juxtaposed
Yeah.
position of like, yo, what? I'm so grateful, and then this happened. So yeah, it was interesting.
Got you. Well, I mean, from that story, obviously, it lets me know that you come from a different era, a different background where, like you said, internships were, no paid, and you were doing things that most people would not subject themselves to do, as far as, selling things, not eating, because you had a dream, you wanted to achieve something. What would you tell a kid that wants to kind of go into a similar field as you, but knowing in this era that a lot of kids now, they're looking to get paid off the rip. Like they're not wanting to go through that, I guess you could say, struggle stage, and which, sometimes it's not necessary for you to go through that struggle stage, but there's a lot of lessons learned in that stage, and you build a lot of wounds and scars that propel you in other roles because you've been at the bottom and you know what that's like.
Yeah, man. I feel like my advice is sometimes experience is more valuable than money.
Mm.
Connections are more valuable than money. Being able, and even simpler than that, being able to see and touch and feel and be in a space really prepares you to be able to manifest it. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like there's some places where I was like, if I could just get in the door, and a lot of my life, a lot of my opportunities have come from things I did for free or out of the goodness of my heart, or to like learn a little bit more. So I do understand that, you have to eat, you got
yeah,
bills to pay.
yeah,
And, if it, and maybe there was some things that I would have like done a little differently, or thought a little harder about, but I wouldn't trade that experience because it, like to your point, it taught me so many lessons. And so the advice I would give is like, it's not always about the money.
yeah.
And sometimes you have to think about, okay, what is the most valuable thing within this environment or within this experience. And a lot of times, even when, I would challenge people, even when they go in places and they getting paid, they find that like the money isn't the real
It's the
value.
value. Yeah,
A mentor that you meet might be the value.
yeah,
Learning what you don't like might be the value.
yeah,
Learning what you're good at is the value. And I feel like there are spaces where you can really get that. And I also think that it's really important in relationships and jobs and other things, to like always go thinking about what you can bring to the table as
yes.
opposed to what you can take away from it. That, when I tell you, that piece of advice has taken me so far and got me into so many doors and built my network to massively.
Mm.
I can tell so many stories about that, but that's what I would say.
That's awesome. I appreciate it, man. I'm a person of I try to learn from success. Like I try to watch or see. I don't have to really speak to them or ask too many questions. I can really just watch people and hopefully, pick up on a few things about success. And what I've noticed, dealing with everybody going from Oprah all the way down to, even, just regular people that just have success, in different aspects of their life. Maybe it's a marriage or whatever the case may be, but it's always been the experience. What do you take away? What's the lesson you take away? And they always tell me, money isn't everything, and you'll really find that out when you graduate college and at the time you're broke, you money hungry, and you might take any job that's offering you any type of money, and then you realize I hate, this is not for me. And this is where you realize like money isn't everything. It's like the things that you don't really think about is like the benefits, the flexibility, the time off, like those little things, the intangibles really help and they are important. So I think what you said was spot on. And just to kind of continue to move the conversation forward, because I know we have a little bit of time, I want to ask you about the Black Excellence Brunch. Okay.
Sure.
Super, super dope movement. I've been trying to watch and just do a little bit of research on the page and everything, but I do want to know, where did the idea come from to start that?
Yeah. The idea came from, I mean, you're from South Carolina, so I can really talk with you about this, and you're going to know the concept of Sunday dinner. So,
Mm,
Sunday dinner, is a
yep.
big tradition in the South. You go to church, and then you come home from church, you have Sunday dinner, which we know at 1 or 2 o'clock, which we know in our lives is brunch time, right?
Yep.
But it was such a beautiful and uplifting and affirming space that my mom would host at our home every Sunday.
Mm,
We would have like people from church, we would have family members, we would have people in the community in the neighborhood all come to our home, and my mom would feed everybody,
yeah.
and just love on people. And I just remember it being one of the first places where I got to see and feel the beauty of being a Black person.
Yeah.
And my Black Excellence Brunch is my ode to my mother and my
Awesome.
upbringing and Sunday dinner, but it's also my version, of it, where I get to celebrate my friends individually and collectively. And so that's where it came from. It's grown like into this into this movement, to
Yeah.
your point, of really being a safe space for Black people to come and just love on each other, at the
Yeah.
core.
That's I really see that happening in the things that you're doing. What is the, if you could sum it up? I know it's still going to be going. I know it's going to get bigger and better every single year, all the time. What is your goal with, Black Excellence Brunch? Where do you see it? The end goal being, or do you just you try to live in the moment, as far as like what the energy that you're conjuring now is kind of just, it's feeding you right now, or do you have a goal of where you see it 5 to 10 years from now, on what you guys would want to do?
Yeah. I, you know, at the baseline, right?
Mm,
I really want to invite as many Black people into the space and really just celebrate, us.
yeah.
I want us to connect. I want us to build with each other. I want us to inspire one another. I want all of those things to happen. But most of all, I just want for Black people to feel like welcomed and loved and appreciated in a world that, I don't have to tell you, sometimes doesn't make us feel that way.
No.
Uh, um, and so that's, at the very base line, what I would like to do. But when I think bigger than that, I would like to see, Black excellence brunches all over the world. I
Yeah.
just got back from Ghana, and where we did a Black excellence brunch for the first time there, and it was just so beautiful to see and to experience, and to people I had never met before, or I didn't know, or I never connected with before, come into a space and it translate,
Yeah.
so I wanted to be all over the world. I wanted to, the UK, Australia,
Yeah.
Ireland. I wanted to be everywhere. And then I want to continue to build off of it. I want to create an award show that's all about, us and celebrating us. I want to do like a TV show, and just really build and really get the message out there about Black excellence, and have Black excellence be synonymous with the Black community.
Yeah.
People have worked really hard to create this narrative about us that is not true,
Yeah.
and I want to be the one who continues to undo some of that negative narrative by reinforcing the positive and beautiful things about us.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. It is inspiring to see a group of, Black people come together. I don't know if everybody knows each other, or, they just know each other just from social media, but at the same time, just being able to come together, laugh, enjoy food, because at the root of it all, food brings us all together. Even as we were transferred over, during the slave trade, it was not the I guess the the idea of welcoming somebody is like, if we can share bread together, and we can
Hmm.
feed you, coming from the road, or coming out, from wherever you travel, and just be able to share bread and talk, and that's how stories traveled and things happen. So like, just having that true essence of just being able to sit down with each other and eat, share bread, and share stories, I think when they leave from that brunch, they feel filled up with joy just because they've had that
Mhm.
experience. So it is inspiring, and I think that you can do. Obviously, you already know you're gonna be able to do whatever you put your mind to. But I think I'm just more excited about the journey and just continue to see you, Melissa, and everybody that I sit down with on the podcast do exceptionally well in all facets of their life. And so, man, I want to say thank you for your time. I really enjoyed it. I really think I got a lot out of it. I wanted to be strategic about the questions to understand who you are, what you had going on, and just some of your life experience, because I think we all can learn through other people's experiences. And you were able to share that. I do want to ask two things. So one,
Yeah.
if you could leave us with some advice that you would give someone. So not the best advice you've gotten, but just what's some advice that you would give to someone that's in trying to be better, do better, and really they have big goals, but they just don't know how to get them out there yet. So I would love to hear your advice on that, or what type of advice you would give. And then number two, we always ask for a recommendation. So if there's anybody that you would recommend for the podcast that I could reach out to and sit down with, that would be awesome.
Yeah, the piece of it. First of all, thank you so much for sharing this space. It's been really refreshing, to have this kind of conversation, to know that there are other people out there doing the work and being very intentional about bringing people together and uplifting them and inspiring and sharing knowledge, because that's really important
Mm,
as well. The piece of advice that I would give is you can only get what's for you by being you.
mm,
Authenticity is important. And anything I've learned on my journey is the more trail I became, the more things that I was able to do and receive that were uniquely tied to me.
yeah,
Um, I can't get what's for trail trying to be Melissa or
got
trying to
it.
be you. You know what I mean? I have to really um, be myself. And I,
Mm,
I I know that sometimes that sounds like, well, what do we do? Or it sounds like, like mysterious, but it really is like connecting with yourself and like doing things that are true to you. Like how many times have people done things that like they weren't sure about, or they knew that weren't for them, but they thought it would get them this opportunity. They thought
yeah,
and I've learned that it's not. Be you,
yep,
and you will receive everything that's for you. It has like literally your thumbprint on it.
right on it.
So I would say that is the piece of advice that I would give, is that authenticity like wins. And and a lot of being authentic is unbecoming. People talk to you so much about becoming something on a journey, but I've learned that it's unbecoming, because from the moment that we're born, people are putting labels on us,
Yeah,
right? And much of my life has been about like taking off the labels that don't fit me. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like that's not me. That's not for me. I didn't say that about
yep,
and that's been really important. So I would tell people like, be authentic, be yourself, but but you can do that, and the way to do that is by like unlearning a lot of
yeah.
things.
Yeah, we have a lot of bad habits to unlearn. It was funny that you say that. We had a conversation last night. I have a friend, and she has a child, but she's going through a little bit emotion. Just lost a grandparent, right? And it's hard. She's saying a few things that just I guess it's sad just because she doesn't understand what has happened, but now it's coming back, and so her mother is getting her like the counseling, right? And back then, giving your child counseling at that age, as far as like maybe 9, 10, they'd be like, no, we're not crazy, but it's just giving them an outlet to share their feelings, to be able to process their feelings, and to be able to just it create a better human versus bottling things up or just telling people it's gonna be all right, or just trying to put a band-aid over it. Allowing the kids now to really express their feelings and understand who they are early, is just gonna help them in the long run. So like that's something that she as a parent is super keen on, because she knows like that's something that she had to unlearn for herself, and she doesn't want to pass that on to her child and going forward. So I like that you said that.
Yeah, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And then the second question was someone that I would recommend. There's so many amazing people that I know, so that has been a hard one. But I think I have to go with like who came to my mind first. His name is Charles Kirkendall, and Charles is the creator and founder of R&B House Party, but he's also just a really dope person who is moving through like the corporate world. You know, he has
Yeah.
like a night and day version of himself, but he's moving through the corporate world with so much intentionality and so much intentionality when it comes to like our community. And I personally appreciate it so much. And yeah, so I would recommend Charles.
That's awesome. Well, all I ask Trell is if you can just send me, or your assistant, however, if you guys can send me an email or whether he has an Instagram, I would love to just maybe get in contact with him and just, reach out to him because, let me do the heavy work and just say, hey, if you're open, we would love to have you. If not, it's no big deal. But if you could, I'll email your assistant and you as well, just to say, hey, if you could send me the recommendation, and then I'll go from there and just reach out and see if I can get him on the show. But Trell, it's been amazing. I appreciate you. Like I said, I learned a lot. It's awesome to see other South Carolinians out here doing exceptionally well. And it's always funny just to see that, a lot of times we have to leave South Carolina to get the nuggets that we need, and then hopefully we could go back home and just try to help others out and do the same thing and just bring the information back, and just help people that want to be helped. So thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day, man.
All right, you too, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, later.
Bye bye.